They ripped the script from her hands, stomped on the pages she'd poured her soul into, and locked her in a rooftop utility room like she was nothing. No makeup, no team, no way out, just four walls and silence thick enough to choke on. But what they didn't know was that Elena Brooks didn't need a rescue, she just needed a way in. Elena Brooks stood behind the marble bar of the Kingsbury Tower Lounge, her hands moving with silent grace as she poured another round of overpriced cocktails for a table of hedge fund executives who hadn't looked her in the eyes once. The rooftop shimmered with glass chandeliers and rooftop heaters, the skyline of Manhattan glittering like a mirage through floor-to-ceiling windows. But for Elena, it felt like a prison made of glass and silk. She wore a crisp black dress, modest heels, and a name tag she hated, Ellie. It was easier that way. Most of them wouldn't remember her name anyway. And if they did, they'd remember it for the wrong reasons. "Excuse me," one of the men said, tapping the rim of his whiskey glass with a gold ring. "Are you the help or just lost on your way to the coat check?" The table erupted in laughter. Elena offered a practiced smile, the kind that didn't touch her eyes, and whisked the glass away without a word. Across the lounge, Tessa Brooks arrived, all high cheekbones, designer silk, and carefully effortless waves. Her laughter sliced through the air like a blade. The adopted darling of the Brooks Empire, America's sweetheart with a dark streak only few ever saw. Her diamond cuff shimmered as she clinked glasses with producers and influencers, all there to celebrate a multi-million-dollar real estate deal her family had closed. Elena, the real Brooks daughter by blood, poured drinks at her own family's celebration like a well-behaved ghost. Tessa spotted her from across the room and sauntered over, camera-ready smile in place. "Oh, Ellie," she purred loud enough for heads to turn, "you're still playing waitress? Or is this your method acting for that little role you're chasing?" More laughter. Elena kept pouring. Steady hands, eyes low. Tessa leaned closer, her voice turning venomous. "You really think you're going to waltz into sovereign skies and snatch Elora from me?" Her breath smelled of champagne and malice. "You weren't born for this world, sweetie. You were born in a Kentucky trailer park. Keep playing pretend. It's cute." Elena didn't flinch. She didn't rise. She let Tessa's words roll over her like fog. Because reacting gave people power. And Elena had learned a long time ago that silence could cut deeper than rage. Later that night, as the party died down and the music softened into background hum, Elena slipped into the back corridor to breathe. The hallway was cold, lined with abstract art and the scent of lemon polish. She clutched a worn folder, inside it, her marked-up script for Sovereign Skies, corners frayed from weeks of practice. She hadn't told anyone about the audition, not even Margot. But somehow, someone had talked. That someone was waiting at the end of the hallway. Margot Lane, her manager, arms crossed, stilettos clicking as she stepped forward from the shadows. "Where do you think you're going with that?" she asked, nodding at the folder. Elena straightened. "Just getting air." "Don't insult my intelligence," Margot said, voice like ice. "You think you're still auditioning for Sovereign Skies? Commander Elora?" Elena said nothing. Margot's smile didn't reach her eyes. "You weren't cleared. Tessa is already in negotiations. This project belongs to her. You're wasting everyone's time. Then why are you here trying to stop me?" Elena asked quietly. Margot's jaw tensed. "Because the Brooks family doesn't want drama. You're a liability, Elena. An embarrassment they're legally obligated to acknowledge. That's all." Elena's heart thudded in her chest, but her expression never changed. "And you?" she asked. "Are you legally obligated too? Or just bought?" That did it. Margot's eyes flashed. "You want to know who you are?" she snapped. "You're a charity case. You think you're some hidden starlet waiting to be discovered. But you're a background extra. And I'm going to make sure that's all you'll ever be." A sharp nod from Margot. Two security guards emerged from the stairwell. Behind her, their hands already reaching. Elena backed away instinctively, clutching her script. You can't. Actually, I can, Margot said with a cruel smile. It's amazing what you can do when no one really cares where you go. The guards grabbed Elena by the arms, too hard, yanking her folder to the ground. Pages scattered like fallen feathers, and one of the guards stomped on them with a smirk. Margot stooped, picked up a single sheet, and tore it down the middle. Break a leg, Elora, she whispered, and waved her hand. The guards shoved Elena up the service stairwell, dragging her past mop closets and dusty ducts. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just breathed, shallow and slow, while every inch of her wanted to thrash. But rage had never served her before. And tonight wouldn't be the night it saved her. At the top of the stairs, the door opened into a rooftop utility room, narrow and lined with metal racks. One of the guards pushed her inside. The other slammed the door. A lock clicked. Then silence. No windows. Just the hum of a dying fluorescent bulb overhead. Elena sank slowly to the floor, her back against the cold metal wall. Her black dress caught on the concrete, and her arms curled around her knees. She didn't move. Her breaths were measured. In. Out. She let her mind drift to the first time she was brought to the Brooks estate at 18. The marble floors. The chandelier that sparkled like a lie. The way her birth mother looked at her like she'd swallowed a lemon. You're not our daughter, she'd said that night. You're someone else's mistake. And still, Elena had stayed. Because she had nowhere else to go. But they never let her belong. Tessa, with her radiant smile and empty eyes, always made sure of that. Always one step ahead, spreading rumors, twisting narratives. Elena had memorized scripts under closet lights, practiced lines in whisper while vacuuming guest rooms. No one believed in her, not Margot, not the press, not even the family who should have. But she did. And belief, she'd learned, was sometimes the only thing that stood between survival and surrender. She didn't know how long she sat in the dark. Minutes? Hours? She traced time with her heartbeat, with the drip of condensation from a pipe above. Every so often, her fists clenched, just to remind herself she was still there. Still alive. The cold bit through her skin. Her legs ached. Her back stiffened. But her mind sharpened. This wasn't just sabotage. This was war. They were willing to erase her to protect a lie. And that meant she had value. That meant she was dangerous. Elena closed her eyes and whispered one of Elora's lines, "You can take my name. You can take my rank. But you will never take my fire." And in that moment, surrounded by darkness, she felt her fire return, not in a blaze, but a slow, steady burn. They wanted her quiet. She would be louder than they ever imagined. Not with screams, but with presence. With truth. With talent they couldn't ignore. Somewhere below, the city pulsed on. Lights flickered. Music played. Tessa smiled for cameras. Margot made her calls. And Elena waited. Calm. Focused. Ready. Because no matter how hard they tried to bury her, tomorrow, she would rise. The moment the rooftop door creaked open, Elena didn't flinch. She didn't move. She had been sitting in silence for what felt like hours, her legs numb, her back sore against the metal wall. But her mind was razor sharp. Focused. Ready. Light spilled into the cramped utility room, flooding the shadows with gold. A silhouette stood in the doorway, tall and lean, his voice calm but curious. "Are you okay?" Elena blinked against the sudden brightness. Her voice, when it came, was dry but steady. "I've had better nights." The man stepped inside, and now she could see him clearly, late 30s, maybe early 40s, dark hair, sharp jawline, eyes that didn't flinch when they met hers. He didn't look like the usual Kingsbury clientele. No pretense. No smug smirk. Just quiet concern and something else, recognition. "I was up here looking for a signal," he said, raising his phone. "Heard something." Didn't expect this. Elena stood slowly, brushing dust from her dress. Yeah. Me neither. His gaze flicked to the broken script pages still scattered on the floor. Did someone do this to you? Doesn't matter, she said. I need to get downtown. To Celestial Studios. The film auditions, he asked, already connecting the dots. She gave a small nod. I was supposed to read for Commander Ellora. Weren't auditions this morning? I know, she said, her voice tight. I still have to try. The man hesitated for just a beat. Then he said, come on. I'll take you. Most people would have argued. Asked questions. Demanded details. But not him. He simply led her down the stairs and out through a side entrance where a sleek black sedan waited. The streets of Manhattan were waking up, trash trucks rumbling, the orange blush of dawn stretching across rooftops. She steadied his profile in the passenger seat. His name came back to her in fragments from magazines and news articles. Lucas Ward. Billionaire tech CEO. Reclusive. Brilliant. And not the type to randomly rescue women off rooftops. You don't need to do this, she said softly. You don't owe me anything. I know, he replied, keeping his eyes on the road. But I've seen that look before, the one you had when the door opened. That kind of fire doesn't go out easy. Elena didn't answer, but she didn't look away either. The ride was quiet. Not awkward, just still. Like both of them were saving their words for something that mattered. When they arrived at Celestial Studios, the lot was already half empty. Trucks idled. Crew members packed up lighting rigs. Most of the casting team had already left. Elena's heart sank, but she squared her shoulders. Lucas didn't move to follow her. He simply parked in a red zone, rolled down the window, and said, Go. I'll be here when you're done. Elena nodded and walked through the front gate, her heels clicking against the pavement, her dress wrinkled, her hair undone. Eyes followed her, curious, dismissive, amused. Whispers floated in the air. Is she lost? Look at her dress, probably someone's assistant. She reached the check-in desk where a young production assistant blinked at her. Auditions are over. I know, Elena said, her voice calm. But if there's anyone left, I'd like to read for Commander Ellora. The PA frowned. Are you with an agency? Margot Lane Management. The name made him pause. Wait, are you the Brooks girl? The one from the tabloids? Elena didn't flinch. Yes. He radioed someone behind the door, muttering something she couldn't catch. After a moment, he gestured. Go on in. They're still here. But don't expect much. She stepped into the audition room. It was long and bare, lit by a single spotlight, with a camera set up center. Michael Trent, the film's acclaimed director, sat near the back with Dana Cho, the screenwriter, flipping through notes. A few producers hovered nearby, checking their phones. Everyone looked tired. You're late, Michael said, not unkindly, but blunt. I know. I was delayed, Elena answered. But I've prepared. I won't waste your time. Dana tilted her head. You're not here for the Empress? No. I'm here for Ellora. The room quieted. One producer chuckled under his breath. Everyone wants the lead. Ellora's just the support. Not to me, Elena said. She's the spine of the story. Michael sighed and waved toward the camera. Fine. One take. Make it count. Elena stepped into the light. She didn't apologize for her appearance. She didn't explain. She simply breathed in, centered herself, and let Commander Ellora rise from within. You think I betrayed you, she began, her voice low, controlled. But I bled beside you. I buried soldiers with my bare hands while you signed papers behind gold doors. Her voice rose. I gave my oath. And you broke it first. The room held its breath. She moved subtly, letting pain leak into her posture, fire into her eyes. Strip me of my rank. Paint me a traitor. But know this, when the ashes fall and your kingdom crumbles, they'll remember my name. The silence was complete. Not a cough. Not a chair creak. Dana's pen slipped from her hand. Michael leaned forward, lips parted, as if afraid to break the spell. Elena stood still in the final moment, then exhaled softly. Thank you, she said, stepping back. Michael blinked. Dana stood. That wasn't an audition, she said hoarsely. That was a reckoning. One of the producers whispered, she's better than the lead candidates. Michael rubbed his jaw. Where did you train? I didn't, Elena said. I studied alone. Nights. On borrowed scripts. In silence. He nodded slowly. We'll be in touch. And, Elena, was it? Yes. That was unforgettable. She stepped out of the room into the light of early morning. The sun touched her skin, and for the first time in days, she felt its warmth. Lucas was still waiting, leaning against his car. He didn't ask how it went. He didn't need to. He could see it on her face. So, he said. Elena smiled faintly. I did what I came to do. He opened the passenger door. Let's get you home. She slid into the seat, not as the girl who poured drinks in her own family's shadow, but as the woman who just shattered every expectation they had for her. And somewhere behind them, in a studio buzzing with disbelief, Elena Brooks' name was now being written into the next phase of Sovereign Skies, etched in ink, not pencil. Not because someone handed it to her, but because she claimed it. Quietly. Unapologetically. Completely. Tessa Brooks was mid-pose in front of her vanity mirror when the call came in. Her phone buzzed once, then again. Then it rang. Her assistant peeked in through the door, visibly nervous. It's Variety, she whispered. About the Sovereign Skies casting. Tessa's painted smile didn't flicker. She waved the assistant off and answered the phone with practiced sweetness. This is Tessa, she said, already preparing her breathy soundbite about her upcoming role as Empress Kaya. But the voice on the other end wasn't full of congratulations, it was confusion. Then disbelief. Then something worse, indifference. We're hearing you didn't get the part, the reporter said bluntly. They're going with Elena Brooks for Commander Ellora. Any comment? For a second, all Tessa could hear was the blood rushing in her ears. She ended the call without a word, her phone still pressed to her cheek, staring into her own reflection like it had betrayed her. Then, in one violent motion, she hurled the phone across the room. It struck a lamp and shattered it in a rain of glass. She was locked in, Tessa hissed, pacing like a caged animal. She wasn't supposed to make it. Her heels clacked against marble like gunshots as her assistant stayed frozen by the door, afraid to move. Call Margot, Tessa snapped. Now. When Margot answered a minute later, her voice was shaky. I don't know how, someone must have found her. There's no way she could have. Save it, Tessa barked. I want her buried. I want the press dragging her name through the dirt before noon. It's just a supporting role, don't you dare minimize this. Tessa's voice cracked, rage spilling out unchecked. You said she wouldn't even get in the room. She didn't have makeup, Margot muttered. She didn't even look like a real actress, and yet she still won, Tessa hissed, her nails digging into her palm. So now we ruin her. Across town, Elena Brooks stepped into her tiny apartment just as the sun crested over the skyline, casting golden slashes through the sheer curtains. She let the door close behind her and exhaled. She hadn't slept. Her wrinkled black dress clung to her like armor, and her mind buzzed with disbelief. She had done it. After everything, after the insults, the locked door, the silence, she had stood in front of the camera, said her truth, and it had landed like thunder. But the euphoria was fragile. Thin. She knew the Brooks family well enough to know this wouldn't be the end. This was war now. And Tessa didn't lose wars quietly. Elena peeled off her shoes, her feet sore from hours of standing, walking, performing. She sat down at the edge of her bed and picked up the worn script she'd spent months rehearsing. Her fingers traced the margin notes, the underlines, the circled pauses. Every word was a fight. Every scene, a scar. And yet she never regretted a second of it. Her phone, mercifully returned by a sympathetic studio intern, buzzed with messages. Some from casting. Some from reporters. Some from numbers she didn't recognize. One name stood out, Margot Lane. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. Whatever Margot had to say now would be soaked in spin and betrayal. She knew exactly what was coming next. Headlines. Tabloid stories. Social media posts planted by PR teams. The lies would start subtle, that she had cheated her way into the room, that she used Lucas Ward for leverage, that she was unstable, unprofessional, ungrateful. Elena had seen this playbook before. But this time, she wasn't a quiet girl waiting in the wings. She was the storm center. The one they underestimated. And that was their first mistake. Meanwhile, Lucas Ward sat in his high-rise office, blinds drawn, coffee cold beside him. The city roared below, but his mind was focused on a different kind of noise, the silence Elena had carried with her. He watched the same clip over and over, a low-res recording from a student film 5 years ago, buried in the corners of Vimeo, almost lost to time. It was Elena. Younger, rougher around the edges, but unmistakable. In the clip, her character delivered a monologue through gritted teeth and trembling hands. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. But it was raw. Alive. And when the final line dropped, the classroom audience went still. Not a clap. Just stunned breathlessness. Lucas closed the browser and leaned back in his chair, murmuring to himself, "They buried a diamond." His phone buzzed with investor calls, pending deals, morning briefings. He ignored them all. Instead, he opened a notepad and wrote one name at the top, Elena Brooks. Then underlined it. At the same time, Margot sat at her desk, clutching her temples. She had 3 publicists on hold and 2 gossip editors waiting for her quote. The Brooks family had made it clear Elena's success would not be tolerated. It was personal now. A threat to their brand, their myth, their hold on the narrative. But deep down, Margot knew it wouldn't be enough. Elena had shown up in a wrinkled dress, no stylist, no team, and had burned a hole through every assumption. The usual tactics wouldn't work. This wasn't a girl they could erase with a headline. She was proof that the system could be broken, and that scared them. In the days that followed, the media war began. Tessa appeared on morning shows with teary eyes and trembling lips, painting herself as the real victim. She hinted that Elena was unstable, implying that the audition wasn't earned but orchestrated. Paparazzi swarmed Elena's apartment. Fake quotes were printed. Anonymous sources painted her as difficult, demanding, dangerous. But Elena didn't respond. Not with press releases. Not with interviews. Not with rage. She did what she always did, she stayed still. Let the noise swirl. Let the storm pass. Because storms always pass. And when the dust settled, what remained was truth. The studio released an official teaser of Sovereign Skies. 30 seconds. A battlefield. Smoke. Then a voice. Elena's voice, fierce and trembling with strength, whispering the first line of Commander Ellera. It went viral in hours. The comments weren't about her clothes, her past, or the tabloid lies. They were about the chills down spines. The fire behind the words. People knew when they were watching something real. Tessa's name trended, for all the wrong reasons. Elena's name became a whisper on every casting director's lips. And Lucas Ward? He kept his distance. Watched from afar. But never stopped watching. Because he knew the truth, Elena Brooks wasn't the kind of story that ended with a casting announcement. She was just getting started. She had walked through fire. Sat in the dark. endured the silence. And now, she had become something none of them saw coming, inevitable. They tried to erase her. But Elena didn't need permission to exist. She had carved her space in the world, word by word, frame by frame. And when people spoke of her in the future, it wouldn't be as a scandal or an accident. It would be as a force. A woman who had been shoved into shadows and turned them into light. In a world that often rewards surface over substance, Elena Brooks reminds us what it means to persevere with quiet strength. Her story is not just one of talent, it's one of resilience, self-worth, and the kind of courage that doesn't scream, but endures. She didn't storm out of that locked room with rage, she emerged with purpose. She didn't fight back with noise, she used preparation, grace, and authenticity to silence the doubters. So what can we learn from Elena? First, never underestimate the power of stillness. We live in a culture that tells us louder is better, faster is smarter, and more visible equals more valuable. But some of the strongest people move in silence, preparing in the background, quietly sharpening their edge. Elena didn't need a stage handed to her, she built one with every line she memorized, every insult she swallowed, and every night she chose not to quit. Second, your background does not define your destiny. Elena came from foster homes, was treated like an outsider by the very family that owed her everything, and yet she stood her ground, not by trying to fit in, but by owning exactly who she was. Whether you've been dismissed, ignored, or told you're not the right fit, remember, the right moment, paired with the right preparation, can shatter expectations. Third, you don't need to be saved to be seen. Lucas Ward didn't rescue Elena, he witnessed her. And sometimes, that's more powerful. In our own lives, we don't need a hero to step in, we need someone to believe in our voice. But even when no one does, we must believe in it ourselves first. To everyone listening right now, maybe you've been locked out of opportunities. Maybe you've been mocked, dismissed, underestimated. Maybe you've had your story twisted before it ever had a chance to be told. If so, let Elena's journey remind you, you are not invisible. And your silence is not weakness. You don't have to shout to be remembered. Sometimes, all it takes is standing firm when the world tries to bend you. Sometimes, your calm is your loudest thunder. From all of us here at US Edifying Stories, thank you for watching, for supporting stories that lift up the overlooked, and for believing, like we do, that dignity, courage, and quiet strength are worth celebrating. If Elena's story stirred something in you, please like, share, and subscribe to stay with us on this journey. Because someone out there needs to hear what you just did. And remember, the world may try to erase you. But your light? If you protect it, if you feed it, it will shine through anyway. We'll see you in the next story.